Today, I'll examine the costs and benefits of environmental regulation from a business perspective. We'll consider how environmental policy influences markets, shapes strategic decisions, and affects long-term value creation. The goal is not to view regulation simply as a constraint or an expense, but to understand the broader trade-offs it creates for organizations. The central question is how businesses can respond thoughtfully, remain competitive, and identify opportunities while meeting environmental expectations. Environmental regulation matters to business because it reaches far beyond legal compliance. These rules shape three strategic areas: market access, cost structure, and innovation. They determine which products can be sold and in which markets. They also influence operating expenses, since meeting environmental standards can require changes to processes, materials, or equipment. At the same time, regulation can encourage companies to develop cleaner, more efficient ways of working. So, businesses should view environmental rules not only as constraints, but also as factors that can influence competitiveness and create opportunities for improvement. This chapter introduces four broad types of environmental regulation. Command and control rules set direct legal requirements, such as emission limits, technology standards, or bans, making them straightforward to enforce, though sometimes inflexible. Market-based tools, including carbon taxes, cap-and-trade, and pollution permits, give businesses more flexibility to choose the lowest cost way to comply. Voluntary programs use certifications, eco-labels, and industry pledges to demonstrate leadership and build trust. Finally, information disclosure requires reporting on emissions, waste, and resource use, allowing stakeholders to reward or penalize performance. This chapter examines the costs businesses face when meeting environmental requirements. The first is the direct expense of cleaner inputs, pollution control equipment, and specialized staff. The second is the administrative burden. Monitoring, reporting, and legal compliance can consume substantial time, particularly for smaller companies. The third is opportunity cost. Money and attention devoted to compliance may otherwise support research, expansion, or hiring. Across the U.S., businesses spend an estimated over $300 billion each year on environmental compliance, although the impact varies significantly by industry and company size. This chapter focuses on indirect and competitive cost pressures, the effects that extend beyond a firm's own compliance expenses. First, regulatory arbitrage can encourage companies to move operations to regions with weaker rules, shifting jobs and emissions rather than eliminating them. Second, supplier regulations can cascade to the value chain, increasing input costs for businesses that may not be directly regulated. Finally, companies may pass compliance costs on to consumers. But when firms compete globally, that price pass-through can weaken their pricing power and competitive position. This chapter shifts the focus from compliance costs to the value created by responsible environmental practices. The benefits extend well beyond cleaner air and water. They can reduce healthcare costs, improve productivity, and lower absenteeism. Regulation can also act as an innovation catalyst, encouraging investment in cleaner technologies and opening new markets for early movers. Proactive compliance reduces exposure to fines, litigation, and reputational harm. And finally, strong environmental, social, and governance performance can build brand and investor trust, supporting premium valuations, lower financing costs, and customer loyalty. This chapter introduces the Porter hypothesis, the idea that well-designed environmental regulation can strengthen rather than weaken business competitiveness. Regulation can become a catalyst for innovation. When firms face higher environmental standards, they may develop more efficient processes and technologies that eventually outweigh the initial compliance costs. There's also a strategic advantage to moving early. Countries and companies that build expertise in clean technology can become global exporters as similar regulations spread. The example of Denmark's early support for wind energy illustrates how policy can help create industry leaders. This chapter turns cost-benefit analysis from a theoretical idea into a practical decision tool. I'll walk through four core tasks: identifying the costs, quantifying the benefits, calculating the resulting net value, and assessing how those effects are distributed across society. The central question is whether a proposed rule creates overall value, not simply whether it benefits one group. That assessment becomes difficult when important benefits, such as cleaner air or biodiversity, are real and socially valuable but do not have obvious market prices. This chapter focuses on why measuring regulatory value is so difficult. Monetizing benefits like clean lakes or improved child health requires methods such as willingness to pay surveys and avoided cost models, all with uncertainty. Discount rates can significantly change how we value benefits that arrive decades later. We also have to consider fairness, because costs may be concentrated among industries and workers, while benefits are widely shared. Finally, environmental impacts cross borders, creating free rider problems when one country pays for benefits enjoyed by others. These challenges make simple cost comparisons misleading. For business leaders, the strategic response has four connected parts. Anticipate change by monitoring regulatory pipelines and building compliance capacity before mandates take effect. Adapt by redesigning products, processes, and supply chains, turning reduced regulatory exposure into potential efficiency gains. Advocate proactively, using technical expertise to help regulators develop rules that are workable and cost-effective. Finally, create advantage by treating compliance as a competitive signal. Strong sustainability credentials can increasingly shape the decisions of buyers, investors, and top talent. Together, these actions make regulation a strategic opportunity rather than a reactive burden. The key message is that environmental regulation brings real costs, but proactive adaptation can manage them. Its benefits, from public health to innovation and risk reduction, are often undervalued. Well-designed policy can limit disruption, while strategic engagement turns regulation into a source of long-term competitive advantage.